Hi, this is Rose McDonough, and I'm a retired home ec teacher, and all I want to be able to do is through my retirement until I'm dead or until we get bored with doing this, I just want to teach people how to cook, how to do sewing, how to do whatever. Today I want to talk about a comfort food that I used to eat when I was a child growing up. I don't know what comfort food is to you. Maybe it's pasta. Maybe it is hot dogs. I have no idea. For me, my mom, who didn't really like to cook, used to make these things called frikadelles. Yeah, I had no idea what they were called either. They're mini meatloaves is basically what they are. Let me tell you some information that I found out about them. So if you are German, you might have called them Frikadelle. Don't judge my ability to not speak German. I had a German exchange student, Selena, and we made these one time, and she said, and she said them in the correct way. I said, yeah, when I was a kid, they were called frikadelles. That's the American pronunciation of them. What are they? They're mini hamburgers. How did they get here? Well, the people from Hamburg, Germany, when they migrated to the United States, brought them with them. And if you like a lot hamburgers, you can thank these people. So whether you call these mini meatloaves or frikadelles or kind of hamburgers, it doesn't matter. I do mine slightly differently because I do them the way that my mom did them. And my mom, as I said, didn't really like to cook, but this was something that was delicious. She used breadcrumbs. I'm not using breadcrumbs. My gut doesn't like gluten all that much, so I try to minimize as much as I can. I instead use some oats because you want to use a filler. When I looked up to find recipes for it, it says ground meat, onions, bread, egg, and seasonings. Well, I'm not actually using onions either. And as my mom being from German descent, she used onions in everything. If you didn't like onions in my house, well, you were pretty much out of luck. But that was to her onions, salt, and pepper. That was her seasonings. I use much more. So you might notice when you're looking at this that it looks a little bit wet. It is. I added about 1/3 of a cup of water. I just want to soften and plump up the oatmeal. If you use breadcrumbs, you don't have to do that. You can just mix them in. And I'm going to use this as my basis to add some things to it. What am I going to add? What I like. You add what you like. I'm adding some Worcestershire sauce. I'm adding some steak seasoning. I'm going to do it on the other side. I love steak seasoning, and so I use this on many, many, many things that we do. And I did have somebody not too long ago when I had made hamburgers said, hey, how did you make those? Because I added seasonings. I'm also adding garlic salt because I'm not going to choose to add salt and pepper. So I'm using garlic salt, and this one also has a little bit of parsley into it. And then if you've ever watched a video, you know that I am crazy for mustard. I always like to add mustard. How much? Yeah, I don't know, just a squirt of mustard. And then I'm going to add some ketchup. See how I shook that up because I hate when it separates out? And maybe double the amount of ketchup compared to how much we did of the mustard. I'm going to mix this up with my egg. An egg is a binder. That's the reason you're using that. Well, once I get this all mixed up, I know I've got the flavoring added really well to this. Mixing this up. Okay, I think it's good. Adding my egg, and heaven forbid that we'd have any waste. Have to use a rubber scraper because you know how crazy I am. And then I've got my meat. What meat should you use? If you were doing a true German dish, you would be using part beef and part pork. That's a normal German dish. I'm actually going to use some ground turkey just because I'm cutting it up a little bit, and I'm adding some of the pork because I want the fat. Why would I need the fat? Because in a little while after I've seared these through, I'm going to pull them out, put them on a plate, and I'm going to make gravy. And then I'm going to put my burgers or frikadelles back into the gravy, and they're going to steam in there, and they are going to be so wonderful. And you can have meatloaf in just a matter of minutes because that's pretty much what it is. So I've got about 1 pound here of the ground turkey, and then probably 1/4 pound to 1/3 of a pound of some sausage. And to that I'm going to add my mixture of oats and eggs and spices. And I didn't add onions. I could have added onions. And sometimes I use the onion, the Lipton soup mix. I will add that to it just for quick flavor. And this is my least favorite part. I'm going to tell you, I love to eat them. I have to put my hands in here. I hate doing that. Everybody has something that they can do and something they can't. I hate touching raw meat. It's just, it's weird to me. All right, let me just get this all mixed up. I thought I took all this out. I have a little piece left in here. All right, there we go. So I'm going to mix it up. Oh, do you like my bowl that I'm using? Yeah, I'm using the container that it came in. Why would I have to dirty up a bowl? I don't need to do that. Oh, the other thing about the water, the good thing about the water is it cooks out a little bit. And that's a wonderful thing when it's cooking out, because then you're not burning your meat. You've got a little bit of the water cooking out of it. And you see it's soupy, and that's fine. If you're making meatloaf, I always add water to my meatloaf anyway because I don't like a dry meatloaf. My kids prefer my husband's meatloaf. You might have heard me say something like that before. I don't like it because it's too dry for me. He likes it, I think, because he can make sandwiches out of it later. I'm not sure. I've never really asked him, and I guess I should. All right, so I've got this partially mixed up, not the whole way. Once you have this mixed up, you have to have a hot skillet. The reason you want a hot skillet is so that you're going to sear it on either side. Once I sear it, then I'm going to, as I said, turn them over, cook them a little bit through, and then pull them out to finish cooking them with the gravy. Trying to get this egg mixed up in here because as much as I like eggs, I don't want a big chunk of egg in anything. It looks like the hot sausage is mixed up fairly nicely in here. When you are using ground meat, if you wet your hands ahead of time, a lot of times you don't have to worry about the meat sticking. Some people make these into meatballs, but I'm going to put them into this meat. You hear them sizzling in there. Grab a little bit more, and I'm going to finish this off, and you don't need to watch me finishing it off. We'll come back when they're almost cooked through. Because I use the ground turkey, I don't really have any fat in here, and I need to make some gravy. So I've gone ahead, they're not cooked all the way through. I'm going to add some olive oil, about a tablespoon, and I'm just going to use my eyeball for that. I think it's about a tablespoon. You could also use a tablespoon of butter if you wanted to. And to that, I'm going to add in flour and salt and pepper. How much flour? A tablespoon. It's real easy when you're making this. It's a tablespoon of fat, a tablespoon of thickener, and I'm just making sure I'm using my rubber scraper and I'm just thickening it up here. What's really nice is when you're making this and you've got a lot of ground meat in here, you will have left a lot of pieces, and that's the stuff that you want to go and get. You want to get that and add it to it. It adds more flavor. So as this cooks, it starts to thicken up just a little bit, and that's all I want to do. Why am I not lying it flat? Because it will be so thin, it will be really hard for me to do that. If you've ever had brown gravy is just when you cook your flour until your flour browns up. And there are some people who will make brown gravy and they will have flour prepared and ready to go. They'll just take a day and they'll start putting into a skillet some flour, moving it around until it becomes brown, and then pulling it out, cooling it, and putting it into a container. And that's what they use for gravy all the time. I'm not one of those cooks. I just don't do that. All right, so this is starting to thicken, which is just what I need it to do. Thicken up a little bit, and I don't have any lumps. I am going to add some of my bouillon cube that I've dissolved in a little bit of water. So I'm going to add that in, and then I'm going to add not quite a whole cup of water because I already had some there. I think I had about 1/4 of a cup in there. So that's about it. And I'm just going to stir this, and I'm going to use this rubber scraper to go all the way around the sides. Any of the meat that was left on the sides, that's what I'm going to try to get down in here because that's just going to make a really rich, flavorful gravy. I'm just going to keep stirring this. This is probably going to take about 2 minutes for this to completely stir up. Another thing I wanted to explain, if you are working with a skillet and you are a new cook and you don't do things often, you don't grab your skillet this way. Look how my shoulder is. It's not even comfortable to do that. You lift up. You want to lift up so that you can control what you're doing. And I do that as I'm taking the meat out or anything that I'm doing in the skillet. I'm turning my egg. I'm doing the same thing. I'm using the skillet and gravity to work for me. All right, do you see how beautiful this is starting to look? And you can see the meat mixed in with that. And it's a rich, I'm sorry, you can't smell things. That was one thing I could do for videos. I wish that I could somehow get smell in there. And just lovely. So now that this is thickened up, just how I want it to be, how do you know if the gravy is done? You taste it. Yeah, what am I tasting for? Flour. If you taste it and you can still taste flour, have you ever tasted flour? Something so amazing that it would taste so bland. If it still tastes like flour, it's not ready to go yet. You want to cook it a little bit longer. If you feel like you need to turn the temperature down, that's fine. The other thing I wanted to explain to you, it's your Thanksgiving dinner, and you're making a huge pot of gravy. And no matter what you're doing, it's not thickening. Well, you need to obviously add more flour to it. How would I do that? I would take a small container. I would put the flour into it and I would add a little bit of water. Take a little bit of flour, maybe if you're making a large amount, maybe you need to use 1/4 of a cup of it. Add some water to it until you make it a paste. Add some of your hot stuff into that. Mix that back up and then add it back into your already hot gravy that you have. At that point, it's broth. And that will help so that you don't get lumps. All right, that looks beautiful. Just exactly what I want it to look like. And now I need to start adding my meat back into it. So I'm just going to get the last one that I put in. I'm going to put this on top of it. And I'm going to just steam it. I'm going to put a lid on it. I'm going to steam it until the meat is cooked all the way through. It seems like it's taking a long time, but if I'm not stopping to give directions, I'm actually much quicker in doing this. I'm telling you that you can mix up this mini meatloaves and you can have dinner in just about 22 minutes. By that time, you could have done whatever sides that you wanted to do. If you were doing this as a true German dish, you would have potato salad, maybe German potato salad on the side. If you were doing this for dinner at home, maybe you want to make mashed potatoes, because that's another thing that you will see on the sides with this. That's how we ate it, with mashed potatoes. Maybe you want to make noodles. Funny, we never ate noodles as a kid. My mom only put noodles in chicken noodle soup, which it was the worst chicken noodle soup I ever ate in my life. It was so bland that the only way she could get me to eat chicken noodle soup was to give me a sleeve of Oreo cookies. I kid you not. I would take and I would eat 2 bites of soup, and then I would have a little bit of Oreo cookie. Couple bites of soup, Oreo cookie. Her chicken soup had onions in it, had chicken in it, chicken broth, and noodles. There were no carrots in it. There was no wonderful flavoring in there. She never put spices into it. I'm sorry, Mom. Rest in peace. Wonderful woman. Just did not really like to cook very much. How did I get out of that person? I do not know. All right, anyway, we're going to go ahead and steam this until this is cooked all the way through. I will show you what it looks like when it's all done. We'll plate it up. I'll get a clean plate. We'll plate it up for you and show you how beautiful it is, because then I will flip it over and I'll put the gravy on top of it. And I want to go ahead and pull some names out here. Lori Ziegler. Oh, Lori, thanks for telling me that you watch my videos all the time. I really appreciate that. Lori Ziegler, and I've got my fingers on 2. Let me see if I can just get 1. Danielle McDowell, which I think I know who Danielle McDowell is, and I think she doesn't live all that far away from me, and I think she has a daughter, Nikki, but I could be wrong. If that's you, thank you. If it's not you, well, whoever you are, thank you also. So please, like, subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and for heaven's sakes, leave comments so I know whether I'm doing the right things or whether I should be cooking other foods for you to learn to make yourself. Thanks, and have a great day.